Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by Lines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got best bets in this episode here for you. A couple sides and totals looks on this Friday. Got 7 games on the NBA slate for you guys. Also got player props up in a separate episode, so make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along, bringing you these episodes each and every weekday throughout this season. Let's go ahead and jump right into your first best bet here, Nate, for Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Mavs again. I know we got hooked if you took the spread, not the money line 2 nights ago against the Pels. Kind of a tough beat, but right now they're getting one in Detroit. And I think Dallas is just playing good ball, understanding who is out here and just adjusting with Luka and Lively, gone. I mean, Luka might be back in a couple weeks, so it's hope on the horizon. But their last 5 since that sleepy spot in Charlotte that we talked about was like a noon game on Monday. They've been really good, 123 offensive rating, number 2 rebound rate, which is huge against Detroit. Meanwhile, Detroit has kind of turned into a pumpkin, I think you could say. The last 7 with the spread of 6 or less, only covered in 1 of those. So, and then you look at the numbers. Why? It's because they actually have the worst offensive rating in the league in the fourth quarter. Their last 3 clutch games, they're negative 28 net. And Dallas last 3 clutch plus 15 net. So, of course, you're going to want the veteran team, been there in a close game to probably bring this home. I mean, Dallas does have the 9th best offensive rating in the fourth quarter. A lot of that falls on Kyrie being clutch. So, yeah, definitely agree with you on his props here. Cade, while he's putting up numbers, like it's not a surprise that Detroit has the 3rd worst assist-to-turnover ratio in this span, and that plays into that bad offensive rating. And Dallas can really shut it down at the rim, even without Lively. They are number 1 defending the rim in January. Pistons are the 8th highest 2-point rate this month and 4th highest unassisted 2-point rate, right up there with OKC, which, as we know, Dallas seems to have their number. And Detroit ain't got no SGA, man. They ain't got no one dropping 50 here. Although if Cade does, it'll be extremely inefficient. I think Mavs also a very good fast break defense, and I just look for Kyrie to lead them on the other end.
Yeah, I think that all adds up. If you like Kyrie as much as I do today as well, yeah, this adds up. Not the best matchup for PJ Washington, but we got to give him some flowers for being a very good power forward, not just like a sort of off-ball shooter who sometimes gets offensive rebounds because he can jump super high. Like PJ Washington's been playing like a solid power forward, and I don't know. I'm proud of him. I love his game. So I'm really excited to see him keep growing because he's doing really well. And this is going to be a huge part of this because he's going up against Toby Harris. So good luck with that, Toby, because PJ Washington's playing really, really well also if you're looking at some of his stuff. But let's go ahead to Chicago-Toronto. I'm taking Toronto minus 3.5. I actually was going to go smacking under if I saw this at like 238, but it's already at 231.5. It didn't even really open that high. I think people are on to the Toronto playing defense well kind of trend here. I don't know how you would miss it at this point. They have the 3rd best defensive rating in their last 10 games. I don't think that's something anybody thought we would say maybe at any point of this season, much less a 10-game stretch here for the Raps. 3rd in defensive rating, 19th. In offensive rating. Not really too worried about that quite as much against Chicago in the open floor especially, but they do have the 7th best effective field goal percentage, and they're making the 5th most field goals at the rim, which is what I care about a lot. They're 2nd in assist percentage. They've been that pretty much the whole season, but there's a little bit less clunkiness with IQ not on the floor with RJ and Scotty. And he's questionable to come back, but should at least still have somewhere around a 22 minute cap like we've seen for him when he comes back from missing a week or 2 at a time. Then it takes him a little bit to ramp back up to 30 minutes. We'll see how long that takes. But the defense, man, 7th fewest points per game at the rim, second fewest points per game in the paint, and the 3rd most points in the paint scored. So they're dominating the paint on both ends of the floor. They are 7th in points off a turnover, and they're 8th in fast break points that they're scoring, 3rd in limiting them. So they're winning these really like crucial margins, right, where it comes to playing in transition, especially against Chicago. And then when it comes to playing down low and being able to sort of work into out, because their 3-point shot has not been there all season. They are in the bottom 5 in terms of 3-pointers made on the season, but in the last 10, they've upped that to 14th. And there's no way there's not a coincidence, right? There's a lot more dribble kick out because they are getting into the paint with such ease right now that's leading to them getting these easier shots. Chicago, still awful on defense in those exact areas, giving up the most points right next to the rim, giving up in the bottom 5, limiting 3-pointers. They're just not a great defense. They're good against catch and shoot guys. And so maybe you don't like the looks of a couple guys like Grady Dick or Bruce Brown if Dick plays in this game. I believe he's still questionable. Same with Olynyk. two pretty good spot up shooters, but like this is going to be about Scotty taking guys one-on-one, RJ doing the same thing and getting out into transition, and then IQ doing the same thing when he is actually out there as well, speeding up the pace enough that Toronto's going to be able to get past Chicago on offense and then really limit everything they want to do on defense because they're getting back so well. So love them to cover here at home against they're underrated. Chicago probably properly rated, but I'll take advantage of the value there.
Yeah, Toronto, the best 3-point defense in their last 3 games, and that's what you need against the Bulls. So totally understand where you're coming at here. Also know Zach LaVine for the Bulls, so that 3-point shooting gonna suffer. Yeah, Toronto covered in 7 of 8. Yeah, it's forget the unders. Like, just get wise to the fact that Toronto, the market's behind this turnaround a little bit. So I will take under in the Warriors Suns game, but I think you can do a creative under that actually gives you an out still, where both teams to go under 120 was even money at DK. The total is only down 1 point to 228. So maybe you have to knock that down one, but I don't think, I think you could gamble on this 116.5. Both teams not getting over that just based on the way they've played. Phoenix has been under that in 8 of their last 9 at Golden State. They went under in November despite shooting 51% from 3. And in general, they haven't gotten to 48.5% in 8 straight matchups against the Dubs. These teams know each other extremely well. They no longer have the offensive firepower they did a couple of years ago, or the offensive mojo, I guess. I mean, Durant is not quite the same unstoppable force. I think you could say Book has been up and down at times, and then the Bradley Beal weirdness. I understand why Phoenix isn't necessarily lighting it up in general. I mean, they've gone under in 4 straight since Nick Richards got in there, right? And so they're actually able to protect the rim. They're only playing at a 95 pace in that span, and their free throw rate has dropped considerably to 28th since getting him in there. We know Golden State doesn't get to the line. They're second worst in January. So, I mean, I think that's the one way you get this bad beat. In fact, looking at the past game log, the only way these teams were really going over is if they got a ton of combined free throws, and that's the only way the Suns went over recently with Detroit is 76 combined free throws. But the last 2 meetings with the Dubs have been that slow pace. They've gone under this, both teams, again, in 4 straight meetings. Phoenix in general, I mean, KD in general, not playing well at the Warriors despite volume shooting. So, I mean, that is a little bit of that weirdness that we talk about. And in general, 16-6 to the under for Phoenix since the middle of December. So it's not even just the Nick Richards thing. It's just like, sometimes it's just clunky, man. And 7 straight under against the West prior to that Wolves game. So most of the time it's like these tomato cans. You filter Golden State versus non-tomato cans under 120 in 9 straight or 16 of their last 18. Like you've talked about how this offense struggles. I think we can continue to see that with now that Phoenix has a little bit of a better defense.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm going to this game, so I don't know if I want them both to go under 120, but it is value for sure. Everything he says right. I no notes really. Just the only thing I would harp on is a little bit more of the fact that like Golden State is good against jump shooting teams. They're not good if you go in to out. They're not good if you can drive and kick. And it's not going to be what we see quite as much here. Like Booker going to Booker, and then Durant going to Durant, and they're going to keep taking ISO one-on-one shots, and there's not going to be defenders there's no defender to limit KD. There's nobody that I trust on Devin Booker. We'll probably see Gary Payton Jr. start in the game and then start on Devin Booker. And great defender, pesky problem. He'll probably be diming up a bit more. The spot up shot will be there for this Suns team. If they do decide to actually double down on ball handlers like they have been all season for the Dubs, then there's going to be open shots. And guys like Grayson Allen and even Tyus Jones, who's either going to be on the receiving end or the delivering end of these 3-point assists, essentially. Like, I'm kind of saying I like Phoenix to win as well, but I just don't trust the Dubs offense, and I do think that they'll have at least enough success limiting the jump shooting. But it's not like it's an efficient, like overly fast way to score. There's gonna be a lot of mid range. There's gonna be a lot of like, let me take my guy. That's time consuming stuff. So I think it is gonna be a pretty choppy game. The way that Phoenix is gonna score, but they're gonna have more success scoring than the Dubs. That's for sure. Let me go to San Antonio. You brought this one up, and I fully agree. Milwaukee at San Antonio under 235.5. You said it. Like we can't get lost in what's happening here. This game that they just played not even a month ago, like 3 weeks ago, 223.5 was the total. It dropped to 221, and then now we are playing at 235. I don't understand. Yeah, the last one landed 226, and these games are going under 100 in terms of pace for both of these teams. Like they're not really. I will say San Antonio's gotten better as of late in terms of the fast break. They've been playing a bit faster. Milwaukee's defense has upped itself big time in limiting fast break points, getting back in transition, and a big part of that is they're not just taking jump shots. There's a few less above the break, just like spray. There's a lot more corner shots that does give a team a chance to get back right on defense. So there's a few differences in the way that Milwaukee's offense is playing that's led to his defense actually being more efficient. I will say that. One of the keys here for me is going to be if you can't stop Milwaukee from getting to the rim or getting to the free throw line, you're effed. And I think San Antonio is the team that can continue to do that, which we've seen so far against them too. Limiting points in the paint when they played the Spurs this season. They are number one limiting points at the rim and the opponent rim field goal percentage. So like it's not that teams aren't necessarily trying sometimes to get at Wemby, but we're looking at the almost definitely defensive player of the year for good reason, right? That is his area of the court that you are not really allowed to score on. Milwaukee has the advantage in the mid-range. Again, same with Phoenix. I don't care. That doesn't lead to points. Like the mid-range shot is not this like exhilarating high energy shot that's going to lead to points on the other end or maybe more points on this end. It's just an 80s style basketball shot that's going to work a good amount for a team like Milwaukee when Chris Middleton and Dame are out there. But I'm not worried about that with the defenders that they have for San Antonio. They are a properly sized team to be able to take them on. We've seen Harrison Barnes and Jeremy Sohan on the floor at the same time with two sort of power forwards or at least an undersized small forward. So I think that'll help them a ton when they're able to pull those lineups out here as well. And then as far as, like I said, the fast break stuff, not really there for Milwaukee. This has become a half court older team. Dame and Giannis in the half court. And then obviously the addition of Chris Middleton has given them another playmaker scorer that they can put into the half court and up their half court offense and not have to rely on Giannis going full head of steam without anybody being back already, right? So they're not necessarily having to worry about scoring the same way that they were when the offense was still a bit clunkier at the beginning of the year, in part because they didn't have that third primary ball handler scorer playmaker. It was all just catch and shoot guys alongside Dame and Giannis, and that just plain wasn't enough. And I do want to give Chris Middleton his flowers for that. But at the same time, it slowed things down for them a ton. And so they're playing in the half court more. They're more efficient, but they're not getting quite the counting stats. So love the under here, 235.5. I would take this down to like 232.5.
Yeah, but you probably don't have to go down because it continues to get bet up. I think people are just looking at the recent results for these Spurs, and you got to look at it situationally. They have been crushed in the paint in the last five because they've played Memphis twice, and then the Clippers just could not miss a shot. Kawhi, welcome back. Full Kawhi mode here in that last game, as well as Zoo just dominating. So I don't think that the Bucks I mean, you expect Giannis to get his against this defense. He's got to step up against Wemby. Fine with taking his props, but yeah, his total has just gone too far based on what we knew about these teams a couple weeks ago. If it continues to go up, wait on it and then hit it at like 236, 237. And yeah, we can expect a bit of a lower score in the game than that.
And if there's scoring going on, I think it's Dame. Dame and it's the jump shooters a lot more than guys who need to score at the rim that score on San Antonio. So I think Dame has another good game against this team, but I think he's the leader here for the Bucks in terms of scoring. But everybody else will be pretty neutralized as much as you can. So that's all the time we have for you though in Best Bets. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Also got another episode with player props up. So until we see you next, happy betting.